So this is my 1967 Chevrolet C-10 pickup. It is a factory small window short bed truck. I bought this from a farmer in St. Helena, California, way back in 2007 when I was the editor of Sport Truck Magazine. I spent about a year with my friends building it, and eventually I ran out of money and ended up having to sell this to a friend of mine. 10 years later, I run into that same friend at a car show. He tells me he has the truck, he hasn't driven it, it's been sitting under a car cover the whole time, and I was able to buy it back without any of the drivetrain in it. Then I spent about a week and a half with all my friends throwing this entire truck together with an LT4 Chevy crate engine, a 6XD sequential gearbox. We took out all the airbags, changed it over to hydro shocks. We blew up the clutch like the next day doing 6-gear burnouts, and it's never been on a proper road trip. So right now, Freiburger and I, we're gonna take this thing around the block, find out all the last-minute things that are still wrong or not tight. We're gonna drive it all the way to Vegas for LS Fest, where we're gonna do burnouts, we're gonna go racing, we're gonna have as much fun as we can to find out, does it work, and is it gonna catch on fire? All right, so these are suspension, up and down. So it's slower than airbags, but there's only one battery. The battery that starts the truck is the battery that runs the suspension.
Is this gonna ride like a mini truck?
No, it rides great.
Is it a triple disc clutch?
No, it's a twin, but I blew it up a few weeks ago, put a brand new one in. We didn't have a flywheel for it, so we just DA'd the flywheel and stuck the new clutch on it.
Okay.
So I'm trying to be gentle because, I mean, you know what happens. Yeah, the brakes are awful. Like that's all of it right there. That needs looking at. And I think it's because we have the wrong master cylinder.
Do you have to use the clutch to shift?
You shouldn't have to, right? They make a box for this thing. This shifter has a strain gauge built into it.
Yeah.
And there's a box. Hello. There's a box that goes in between the coils in the ECU, interrupts the ignition when you pull the shifter.
Yeah.
I don't have it installed. So I'm clutching it, but you can just flip the throttle and grab it, and it'll do it without the clutch. It's kind of like the transmission in Blasphemy, but a lot easier to drive around town.
Okay, brakes first.
Brakes first. First thing we have to do is take the seat out of the truck. I know that sounds weird. However, the master cylinder for the front brakes, the rear brakes, and the clutch pedal are all behind the dash. So this is just gonna get way easier to take the seats out. And then once they're out, I'll talk Dave into helping me lower them. All right. Not so bad.
Yeah, it just barely squeaked.
Now, I'm gonna take the cluster out. Unfortunately, when I put that pedal setup in there, the dash was not in the truck. This has a Willwood underdash pedal setup. These are 1 1/8" bore master cylinders. One for the front brakes, one for the rear, one for the clutch pedal. All of it is too big for the system that I have. By reducing the size of these, when I step on the brakes, it's going to increase the amount of pressure going to the brakes, and so it's gonna stop better, but this is gonna be a pain in the butt, beyond the fact that you're feeling the reservoirs behind the dashboard. So we have all this fluid here that we need to get out and get this out and replace everything, and yeah, that's why I took the seat out of the truck, why the dash has to come apart. It's gonna be fun.
While he's doing that, let me show you kind of how the master cylinder setup on this thing works. There's two masters, a front and a rear. And you've got a push rod coming out of both of them, just like you would on a regular master cylinder. And then you have here what's called a balance bar. And then your pedal is pressing on a bearing in the middle of that balance bar. So this is what it looks like when it's at rest, because we have the front brake push rod longer than we do the rear brake push rod. When you step on the pedal, the balance bar is gonna even out like this. Therefore, The push rod will go deeper into the front master cylinder than it does into the rear. And what that does is it's going to initiate pressure sooner on the front. It's also going to displace more volume on the front. And basically what that's doing is balancing your front and rear brakes. You want the front to activate a little bit before the rear. Think of it on your conventional car about how you might use an adjustable proportioning valve and you want the front to hit just a little bit sooner than the rear. This is sort of the race cool guy way to do that.
Well, there's part of our problem. Okay, see that in there? That is a really, really small piston. Our new caliper, really, really big piston, so this is gonna have way more clamping force for the same pressure. These are actually rear brake calipers, and how they ended up on the front of my truck, I have no idea. I'm gonna blame myself. I own the truck. Clearly, it's my fault, but this is gonna help a lot.
Now we have all 4 brake hoses loose, and we're gonna try and pump all the fluid through the system so that we don't have to gush brake fluid everywhere underneath Mike's dash when we take the master cylinder out. We were thinking about just squirting one end at a time, but here's the deal. Let's say you only disconnected the front, you've got this balance bar situation, and you pump all of this fluid out, and so there's none in here, but the rear still has fluid and therefore is still making pressure. That means there's no pressure happening on this push rod and there's pressure here, so that balance bar is gonna get all cattywampus and it's not gonna push all the fluid out of the other master cylinder. So what we're hoping we can do is sort of out of all 4 at the same time. Okay, I'm gonna start pushing fluid through. Is it doing the... It's not squirting? Well, no wonder you don't have brakes. That's weird. Okay, I'm gonna start pushing fluid through. It's sucking air back. I need to squirt it and leave it down for a second.
It's coming out.
Our goal is to get the master cylinders out, and that means we've got to take the steering column out in order to get to them. Next up, those little white reservoirs are coming off. Aha. It came out remarkably clean. I didn't get any fluid everywhere. Now, this whole Cingolini should come out of here. There we go.
See, that wasn't so bad. We just had to take out the gauges, the steering column, you know, no big deal.
Watch the drippage. That could have been worse. Could have been a lot better.
So for the last 10 minutes, we've been telling you all about this magical pedal assembly that has 3 master cylinders on it. And this is it right here. We finally got it out of the truck. We have the ones for the brakes, but not the clutch. Should be here tomorrow. Ideally, you would bench bleed these, which is essentially purging the air out of each one by filling it with fluid and then slowly stroking the pedal the full length of the chamber. Because once it's in the car, the pedal won't stroke the whole way. It will not get all the air out of here. The issue is, if you put these reservoirs on top of here, this won't go back in the show truck. We need to devise a way to bench bleed it out here, take the reservoirs off, get it back in there without spilling any fluid, or we lose the shop. Good news, I have everything I need to bleed the master cylinders, and the key are these radiator bypass caps. I'm gonna use them to cover up the reservoir right here. I'm gonna fill this here, bleed it here on the bench, then I'm gonna remove this, cap it, and I believe if I cap it, I can keep the level of fluid above the top of the piston area, keep air out of it, put the whole thing in the car, pull my rubber cap back off, put the reservoir back on, fill the reservoir, connect the line without essentially breaking the seal, putting air in the system. All right, one down. Now lift that up. Try not to bend it over because it's gonna,
Woo!
move this away and it should not have air in it. Oh no, oh no. Ah! Dave. Oh no, oh no. The cap came off. But we didn't lose the fluid. How about a zip tie around the thing, right over the top? It won't slip off. or zip tie around the circumference.
We're gonna bleed the brakes now, and it's a little bit different with the dual master cylinder than it is when you normally see us bleed brakes. Typically, we will bleed the rear brakes and then move on to the front. In this case, we need to do side to side. And so you'll see Mike on the front and Mason at the back. They both need to work the bleeder screws at the same time. Willwood calls it a 3-man bleed.
All right, down.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, and down.
Lots of air. Closing. A lot of bubbles. So brakes are bled completely. I'm stoked.
Steering column back in.
I'm really glad the brakes didn't work, because when we took the column out the first time, I noticed there were no bolts holding it together. We get to live now and have brakes.
Okay, here we go. Finnegan should cream me here. The muscle truck used to be fast. It had like a loose converter and 513 gears and a bunch of stuff, and nitrous. But now it's just 3.0 highway gears, stock converter. I'll be super happy if it goes in the low 13s.
I'm gonna do something I've always wanted to do, which is lay my mini truck flat on the tarmac on a drag strip and do a burnout. Oh, come on. Oh, you said no. Oh, you just ruined my fun.
He can't do a burnout with that trans.
I was gonna do a burnout. He said no. Oh, well.
Okay, here we go.
My goal here is not to spin. I don't even know what RPM to leave at. I just don't want to spin.
I think he might have stalled it off the line or something like that.
Well, not a lot went right on that run. It felt like I drove through the clutch a little bit. Then, well, it wouldn't go in second gear. And Freiburger kicked my butt once again with less horsepower.
All right, let's see if we can go again. Give Mike a better shot at this.
Let's do a burnout this time.
Burnout for show.
So I got a burnout this time. That's good news.
Yep, see, I spun the tires that time. That big old burnout burned me.
Yay! A lot of wheel hop, but I did beat him that time.
Yep, that's what I get for doing the TV show Burnout. If I just cleaned the tires and gone, I would have been good, but I greased them up.
I sucked less. Yay me! So the 1-2 shift, it broke loose and wheel hopped. The wheel hop was bad enough I had to pedal it and get back in it. And then it wheel hopped a little bit on the 2-3, but not as bad. This is definitely not a drag racing suspension.
All I really care about is a low 13 out of that first pass. They're letting us go again. All right, we're doing best 2 out of 3.
I just went 12.61 and beat Freiburger. We're now tied 1-1.
Okay, I guess I won the best 2 out of 3. But you know what? His truck has way more power than mine. It's just a matter of a slower truck is way easier to get off the line on a street tire.
On the 1-2 shift, the truck went sideways. I had to get out of it. He beat me. It's a rare occasion when I beat that guy. So what I have to do is focus on that part. Round 2, kicked his butt. I don't even think we did a round 3, right? I didn't see it, did you?